Satnam, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another episode in our ongoing series. And today we're going to be doing the program Your Miracle Mantra Moment, where we will chant for 11 minutes the shabad Dhan Dhan Ramdas Guru, Jin Sriya Tine Savarya, for inner peace, calm, healing, a miracle, if you will, for us, for those we love, and for the whole world, really. So I hope you'll stick with this program today. After we chant the mantra, the shabad, then we will discuss some topics related to that or related to Sikhi. And also, if you wish to put in questions in the comments area, that'll be great too, and we may get to those. Also, as you're arriving, if you'll be so kind to put your name and where you're logged in from in the comments section, then we can all see who's here and how far of a reach that we have. So I'm seeing that there are 4 people present so far. So if you'll be so kind to share with us your name and location, that will be wonderful. And if you're new to this series, if this is the first time you're tuning in, this is an ongoing program that we do every Wednesday, mostly. I've taken a couple weeks off in this last year. But we do a program every Wednesday at the same time, and that's available through our Sikh Dharma International Facebook page, live, and then afterwards. It's also available through our Sikh Dharma International YouTube channel, live and also recorded there for sharing around with people later, or rewatching if that's something that you would like to do. Today's program is part of a series that we do every few weeks. I would say we're approximately 5 weeks apart on these programs. And then in between, we do other programs. So we have a program called Home Kirtan and Chat, where I invite a guest, a musician, a Kirtan musician, to come and play some music live. And then we talk about their music, their recordings, their videos, and their life. And it's been very interesting. In February, I had a guest whose name is Sunny Singh, and he's a young musician from New York City, Brooklyn. And he's been doing some really interesting things with Gurbani, mixed into more eclectic, more fusion style music using Punjabi rhythm, but also Afro-Cuban types of influence as well. So it was very fascinating. I hope you'll check that out. The recording is there. But I've done, I think, 14 other musicians in this last 12 months. And upcoming for that program, I'll be having a program probably in the middle of April, not sure the date yet, with a wonderful musician that you can find on YouTube, Shivpreet Singh, who has done some amazingly beautiful recordings on YouTube. And he's a classically trained musician, both in Indian classical music and in Western music, and he plays piano as well as flute, and brings with him many other wonderful musicians on these recordings. So I'm looking forward to that program, as I say, middle of April, and I'll be putting word out as we get closer to that on the exact date. And also upcoming, another series that I do called The Roots of Sikh Dharma, where we look at the history and beliefs and the practices of Sikhs. And so we've got one coming up that is a special focus on Shabad Guru, understanding what it is, how it works, how we can tap into it, and that kind of thing. And then the following week, right after that, I'll do another program where I'm inviting some guest kirtanis. So far I've got Sadhasat Simran Singh of Chardi Kala fame, and also Prabhanam Kaur, who is the mother of Sanatana Kaur. And I'm hoping to get somebody else as well to round out that group, and we'll be talking about Shabad Guru as a kind of deeper discussion, deeper dive. And that's part of the ongoing program we call Dialogues and Dharma. And then at the end of April, we're going to be doing a special focus on Guru Arjan Dev, because his Gurpurab will be coming up around that time. So lots going on. I hope you'll stay tuned to this series and the other series that we're doing. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've missed a series. I think that's basically it. But so today, and I want to welcome some of our regulars, Mohan Sangeet, Deborah, and Chris. I think you might be new from Oshkosh. Wow, from Oshkosh. Couldn't see it from here. Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Great to have you. And Sita Bhakti from Germany, and Aman Singh, and I think that's it so far. Anyway, great to have you all with me. It's nice to know that someone's out there. And please do like this program if you're on Facebook, and share it around Facebook or YouTube. It's amazing that we get a lot of comments after the program has ended. So I go in and I check those and see if there's any questions that I can answer. And also a lot of people watch these after the fact, not live. And so if you know people who might be interested, you can share it around. That'll be great. All right, so today, as I said, we're going to do 11 minutes of chanting Dhan Dhan Ram Das Guru. And then I'm going to talk, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about, thinking that we're going to talk about grace and seva and humility. So I think those are three things that are on my mind right now. So let's see where that goes. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions, you'd like to put them in the comments area, that'll be fine. And Kirandeep has joined us, Kirandeep Kaur. And as always, she does the seva of putting the words for this shabad in the comments section. So if you need those, they are there. Thank you, Kirandeep. All right, so let's get going here. Ramdas Guru Tanna Tanna Ramdas Guru Jin Siriyatin Savariya Jin Siriyatin Savariya Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru. Holy, holy,
सिर चनारे तारिया पूरी होई कार मात अप सिर चनारे दारिया सिद्धि आते संगति पार ब्रह्म कर नाम सकारिया सिद्धि आते संगति पार ब्रह्म कर नाम सकारिया पार ब्रह्म कर नाम सकारिया पार ब्रह्म कर नाम सकारिया धन धन Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Atal Atao Atol Tu Tera Antal Par Variya Atal Atao Atol Tu Tera Antal Par Jini tu seria bakar se tun par utariya Jini tu seria bakar se tun par Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru. Lam Loma Kam Krodh Moh Man Kande Tun Sapar Variya Lam Loma Kam Krodh Moh Man Kande Tun Sapar सच तेरा पैसकारिया तन सो तेरा तन है सच तेरा पैसकारिया सच तेरा सच तेरा Ramdas Guru जिन सिरिया तिन्ने सवारिया जिन सिरिया तिन्ने सवारिया तन तन Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Nanak tu lehna tu hai Gur Amar tu vichariya Nanak tu lehna tu hai Gur Amar tu vichariya Gur Ditat Man Sadariya Gur Ditat Man Sadariya Gur Ditat Man Sadariya Gur Ditat Man Sadariya Ramdas Guru Ramdas Guru Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Jin Siriya Tinne Savariya Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Satnam, welcome to those of you who have arrived since I first started, and that would be Suk and Leda. Thank you for joining us. And if this is your first time, welcome. And the way this particular program in our several series that we offer in these shows is called Your Miracle Mantra Moment. And it's because many of us who are Western Sikhs, and also many people who practice Kundalini Yoga, refer to this shabad as a miracle mantra, something that if you recite it, a miracle may arrive in your life. And, you know, there's no money back guarantee, I'm afraid, but it is an amazing practice that, to me, the miracle in my life is the way that this shabad has anchored me into Guru Ram Das, into the Shabad Guru, into Sikhi, into an experience of my soul connecting to the infinite. And there are other stories I can talk about that, you know, are more personal to me about how that mantra, how this shabad, this mantra, has particularly helped in times of crisis. But I have to say that it's also about, over a long period, having this as a sort of periodic practice, even if it's not a regular daily, weekly, monthly practice, is something that is transforming also. And this shabad has a power. It's got a lot of interesting history. It was not written by one of the gurus. It was written by a poet, a mystic poet, a musician in the court, who served in the court of several of the gurus and served in the time of Guru Ram Das, but more importantly in the time of Guru Arjan, which is the time when that musician composed this shabad. And he composed it as a way to express his devotion to all of the gurus that had lived up to that time, and to recognize Guru Arjan, to bring that recognition forward that Guru Arjan's a continuation, was the same embodiment of that same light that had begun with Guru Nanak, Guru Angad, Guru Amar Das, Guru Ram Das, and then Guru Arjan. That the shabad was an act of humility. The musician, it's credited to Balawand and Sata, who were two musicians together who served the courts of the gurus. And just to shorten the whole story, there was, at the time after Guru Ram Das's passing, there was some confusion as to who the new guru was, because Guru Arjan had an elder brother named Pritichand, and Pritichand was not chosen by Guru Ram Das to be the successor, but as he was the eldest son, he felt that it was his right to have that recognition. And so he claimed it, even though the actual seat of the guru had been bestowed upon Arjan. So there was some confusion, and the musicians who had served Guru Ram Das saw that there were very few people coming to the court of the new Guru Arjan, and they decided they would go elsewhere. They went to the court of Pritichand. Later they regretted that. They saw the mistake they had made, and they, through contrition, they were able to come back to the court of Guru Arjan, and in so doing, they presented this shabad along with a long composition called Balwan Divar. And so that story has always reminded me of how important it is to be in touch with our own humility and be willing to recognize when we have made a mistake, acknowledge that, and through that acknowledgement, we are able to set down the shame, set down the embarrassment of doing the mistake, of having allowed our ego or circumstances to not hold us on the right course, on the right track. That when we do that, it is hard to acknowledge. It's hard to sometimes, first of all, acknowledge it to ourselves, but then to acknowledge it to those around us. It's hard, and especially if we feel like we have some particular status in the community, or even with our family, that will somehow be tarnished if we admit to poor judgment, to making a mistake, to allowing our ego to rule in a situation. So for me, this story, this shabad, is as much about compassion and a miracle and the example of Guru Ramdas. It's also an example of those musicians and the extent to which they had to go to really move beyond their mistake. And that when they did that, they were then welcomed back. And in fact, they were honored in that this composition was actually included in the Adi Granth that Guru Arjan had compiled or was compiling at that time. And that was a great honor for their composition to be included. The other compositions that had been included by Guru Arjan were compositions by the previous gurus or by people who were recognized widely as being very important, deeply mystical saints, poets, and these musicians were truly honored by having their composition included. And we are so grateful now because we have this. It has powerful messaging, but also it has a powerful effect as we chant it, as we sing it. And in fact, it is played and sung every day at Harimandir Sahib, the Golden Temple in Amritsar, as a recognition of how important it is. The message, the example, the story, the shabad itself is powerful and a reminder of the recognition of Guru Ramdas, the recognition of Guru Arjan at the time, and how they are all connected. And when you are at Harimandir Sahib and you hear that, it's very moving because it's history. It's specific to our gurus and to that place in many ways. Because Guru Arjan, of course, was taking over and continuing the work of Guru Ramdas. And the work of Guru Ramdas was very much the establishment of what we now call Amritsar and the beginnings of what we now see as Harimandir Sahib. So it was all very important stuff, and I love to remember that as I'm chanting, as I'm singing this shabad. I'm going to take just a brief pause in that as I take a look and see if any of you have put in any questions. And I don't see any, but I'm encouraging you to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to take a drink of water while I'm seeing if anyone's going to do that. You know, we look to the shabads that are either composed by Guru Ram Das or about Guru Ram Das as inspiration, along with the other gurus, of course. As I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about humility and service and grace. And the example of Guru Ram Das's life is pretty amazing. Example of humility and service. As a young boy, you know, getting exposed to the teachings of Guru Amar Das, and then dedicating himself to serve the court of Guru Amar Das, helping in the construction of the well at Goindwal, devoting himself for 22 years to serve Guru Amar Das before Guru Amar Das passed, and then Guru Ram Das became Guru. And then devoting himself through the time that he was Guru to not be enamored with the trappings of the Guru's court, of the Guruship, of the seat, holding that seat, that throne of Guru. Not being overwhelmed by the majesty, the wealth, the celebrity that came with that. But remembering to dedicate himself to those in need. The idea that he would change his clothes in the evening to very simple clothing and then go out in the streets to serve those people who might be traveling or pilgrims to that place, to take care of them, to make sure they were fed. Excuse me. And so what we have is such a perfect example to remind us in these times how it's really important to look around ourselves at where is their need, where is their pain, where is their suffering, where can I help, where can I be of service. And the teachings of our gurus really focus on service, focus on seva. And in many ways, this is kind of, it's handled a little bit too easily. Because we have a wonderful tradition in the Sikh tradition of serving langar, or free food in the Guru's kitchen. And that is wonderful seva. But I really hope that people more and more remember that this is not only to be seva that serves those who come to the court of the Guru, but perhaps those who never even heard of the court of the Guru or Guru Nanak, but people in need nonetheless. And I can't help but think that that is where Guru Ram Das was more focused, perhaps. Not just serving the people who are coming to see him, but serving people of any, of doing anything, traveling, just surviving. And we have a lot of that even in these times. People who are um, have food insecurity, who need help to have enough food. You know, I live in New Mexico, and it is clear that there is poverty, but you don't think it's that bad until you start to dig a little deeper. And there's a wonderful program that was started by a community member here and others who have supported that program over years, called Food for Kids. And it addresses the need for food in a very simple way. Many children don't have food at home. They come to school, they get a breakfast, they get a lunch, but when they go home, for whatever reason, they may or may not have much or any food, and that's especially difficult on weekends for them. So Food for Kids is a program that, in collaboration with the local schools, puts together bags of food, simple food that the children can eat without cooking, that is nutritious, and they take it out to the schools and distribute it. And even right now, when the schools may not be in session together in a physical location, they make them available for the families of those kids to come and pick them up at the schools. So, seeing a problem and finding a simple solution, addressing it, and working with community leaders to help get that done is a perfect example of the idea of serving the needs of those around you. And not just in the langar, not just cleaning the Gurdwara, but really looking beyond the doors of the Gurdwara and going out into the community, not being shy, not being reserved, also not being arrogant about it, but just being serviceful where you can. And there are other programs that may be out there, and maybe you find that in your neighborhood someone's already doing something like that. So you could just throw up your hands and say, well, it's already being done, I can't do it, so that's it. Or you could help that program that exists. You could volunteer in that program. You could volunteer to find food donations for that program. Or you could look to another program or establish a program further afield. Food insecurity is a big issue, even in this time in the United States. And so that's a fantastic way to serve. And I don't know if that's as much of an issue where you are, but I'm sure there's something, if you put your mind to it, that could benefit from your service. So now I want to talk a little bit beyond the actual doing of the service into how does that play into on our path of spiritual transformation, spiritual elevation, our progress. And, this is a really little esoteric, hard to understand, hard to not get caught up in the intellectualizing of these things. But our Guru says many times, you can't focus on winning a game. It's not a balance sheet. You can't buy your way into liberation, mukti, spiritual evolution, transformation. You have to let that go and simply do the work. There's that great Buddhist saying, chop wood, carry water. Sometimes just doing the things that need to get done without looking for reward or recognition is enough. And I have to say from personal experience, that's what I find, is that doing seva is in itself such a deep reward, because you feel connected to fulfilling a deep need in people's lives. And it's enough just to do it. Whether there's some reward later, that almost, most of the time doesn't matter. It may creep in some time and again. But if you just let that down and focus on the doing of it, that in itself is a beautiful place to be. It's like, it is a meditation in action. It is a way of being connected to spirit, to the divine, while you're actually doing something. And in fact, many people who do seva like to recite Gurbani or a mantra while they are doing it. Whether they're doing that aloud or quietly, that's up to them. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a program here for the series Roots of Sikh Dharma, and I was talking about what Sikhs practice, what they do as part of their devotion. And I was talking about seva, and some of my earliest experiences I was living in England at the time, and going from central London, driving out to Southall, which is west of London, and going to the Gurdwara there, the main Gurdwara at the time, which was Sri Guru Singh Sabha. This was in the sort of mid to late 70s. And going there on Sunday morning to listen to Asa Divar, which is early morning. But also, as I would sit for a while listening to the Asa Divar, meditating, beautiful kirtan and very uplifting vibration. Then after a while, I would go out to the Langar area and do seva in the kitchen, helping to prepare food. And I still get chills remembering standing around the big heated grills, cooking chapatis with other sevadars, and the chanting of Gurbani, the dedication of those sevadars, men and women, to do the preparation of the food so that others coming later would be able to enjoy it. And it was a beautiful experience, very uplifting, transforming experience that, obviously now, many years later, it's still fresh, it's still inspiring me. And so those kind of experiences are out there. If you have not had a chance to seek them out, I encourage you to be involved in either Gurdwara Seva or somewhere else helping people in need. But to do it from that sacred place, that place of spiritual dedication, devotional practice. And it brings you to a place where you feel connected to the grace of the divine. And that's something that's hard to talk about because it's very intangible. But grace is really at the heart of Sikhi, at the heart of understanding the practice of being on the path of a Sikh. That the philosophy is stated there in the Gurbani, that the teachings are clear, that everything comes through grace. Everything that you hope for, everything that you receive is a gift from the divine. But it's really wonderful when we can do something that feels connected to that flow, that flow from the divine to us, to others, the very breath that we are taking as we do seva, that empowers our hand to do the work that helps other people, all feels connected in a chain of grace. And it's something that I hope each of us will have a chance to experience that. To me, that's such a motivational connection that we can tap into to keep ourselves on the track, to feel that, to be inspired, and to inspire others. I'm going to take a pause on that note and just look at, it looks like we have a question, so I want to check in on that, so just bear with me. So, Peggy has asked, could you please help to let us know how often and how many times at each sitting should we chant the miracle mantra? Okay, Peggy, yeah, no problem. So it's typically recommended that you sit and practice this for 11 minutes. But you could also do it faster, I guess, if you wanted to. Do it 11 times. I have done this sitting. I have done it singing, like we just did. I've also done it just chanting in a monotone. Dan dan randas gurujin siriyatine savaria puri ho ikarama tapasirjanaha, like that. So you can do it like that. Sometimes I do it when I'm walking by myself, either silently or softly chanting. That's a wonderful practice to do. So the number or the length of time, as I say, is normally 11 minutes or 11 times, but longer is better. A few years ago, I was teaching at a program called Satnam Fest. We were in Pennsylvania, I think it was, yeah. And it was springtime, and we were over, was it spring? I don't know. But we were there, and Sanatana Kaur and I were teaching together a workshop on this shabad. It was just focused on this shabad. And after we had taught for the afternoon, the next morning, early morning, we and several other musicians got together on the stage, and all the attendees gathered, and we proceeded to spend 2.5 hours chanting this shabad. And I have to tell you, it was an amazing experience, and I hope to get that experience, a chance to do it again. It's awfully hard to do 2.5 hours by yourself, although some people do that. But certainly to get together, and because we were several musicians, we could take turns leading it without getting tired, distracted, or needing to take a bathroom break. So it was wonderful, and some of us sat there the whole 2.5 hours, and it was truly something. So, you can do as long as you wish, but I wouldn't recommend trying to do less than 11 minutes or 11 times, whichever works for you. The more you can put in, the more you get out, kind of thing. That's my experience. So I hope that gives you the answer you're looking for, Peggy. Thank you for asking. Anybody else have questions? Go ahead and put them in the comments. I want to draw your attention across the bottom of the screen. There is a little notice about next week's session. And that's a series I didn't mention in my earlier sort of blurb about all the different programs we do. But next week we'll be doing another series that we do occasionally called Learn a Shabad, where I take you through the words, a melody, and then show you on the harmonium how to play it. And so we've been doing that series for a while too. And if you want to check out the recordings that we have on YouTube and or Facebook, they're all there, and we have, I don't know, I think 4 or 5 shabads there that you can learn if you wish. And this one's going to be another, so that's great. And so I had, I wanted to share a little story with you. I had a little gift. My wife and I were given a chance to get in on some unused vaccine that was going to go bad. So I was able to get vaccinated a little earlier than I might have otherwise. And so as of a couple weeks ago, my wife and I are fully vaccinated, and we decided we wanted to go see some family. So last week we drove out to California and spent some time there just with family. And it was so nurturing and rich for us, and I hope for them as well. And then after coming home, coming back to the same routine, you know, still social distancing and wearing masks and everything, it really struck me as coming back after having that experience of being out post-vaccine kind of, it made me really, it gave me a sense of humility, it reminded me of the fragility of this life and of the love that we share with each other and how important that is. And a deep sense of gratitude for the way that we as humans come together to support and help each other. You know, it's amazing that we have these vaccines so quickly, faced with a very difficult situation of the pandemic. And sure, those people are making money, but you know, I just feel like it's a beautiful expression of our human spirit that we rally together when faced with such seemingly insurmountable tragedy and find solutions. Even those of us who have had experience going out in the community and having to wear the masks and social distance and do our best to not just protect ourselves, but really protect the community. And I sometimes get a little irritated when I see people arguing about wearing masks, you know, because this is just a simple act that we can do to stop the spread of disease. God forbid if you were asymptomatic, an asymptomatic carrier of this virus, and just by your arrogance of not wanting to wear a mask, you infected other people who became really sick and perhaps even died, how that would feel, you know? So it's about protecting all of us, not just ourselves. It's not a selfish act, it's an act of civic duty and responsibility as members of our communities, as citizens of the world, to see that our actions express our willingness to make small sacrifices for the better outcome for all. And that's something that gets lost in the discussions a lot these days. People are generally out for themselves at the cost of anything to someone else. And I hope that perhaps there is a dialogue that is growing from this experience of the pandemic, that people will start to think, well, you know, we should really think about the greater good for all and not just ourselves. And I know that that's a naive and perhaps simplistic way of thinking on my part, but nonetheless, I hope that the discussion gets some energy, and especially in the areas of education that children start to hear that. Perhaps they have not heard it at home. Maybe they hear it in their classrooms. Maybe they can start to pick that up as something that they will live with and embody themselves. I certainly hope so. Well, we're kind of wrapping this up today, so I hope that this has been interesting enough for you and inspiring, I hope. I think I've brought you up to date on all the upcoming programs, and so I don't have much more to say. I guess I'm going to end it just a little early here, but I wanted to thank you all for being here. Thank you for participating, for chanting. And when we chant, we're chanting not just for ourselves, but to raise the energy of the planet. And even though it's just a few of us, I feel like we're doing our little part, and that we may have a ripple effect around the world. And as I say, this program goes out, and many people watch it after the fact. So I hope that the effect is good. So I hope to see you next week, and I hope that you'll be careful, be safe, stay healthy, and be happy. And we'll see you next time. Satnam, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.